Welcome back to Truly Aligned. I'm Erin Clifford,
And I'm Maximilian.
and today we are talking about the number one most asked question from our clients, which is
Can I retire early?
yes, it is the most asked question we get asked probably daily, would you say?
Something along those lines.
So today we're going to talk about an example client. We're going to run through the information we collected from them, the recommendations that we would have provided, and how we got to those. Hopefully something applies to you in your situation, or maybe you learned something along the way. So Max, why don't you kick us off?
So Aaron, I learn best through stories, experiences, and just examples. And today we're talking about Tim and Sue. They had a dream of retiring at 58. They wanted to spend more time with their kids, family, and travel the world, which I love. So one of the most important questions is how much money you're actually spending now and how much money do you plan to spend throughout your retirement. So for most people, they end up spending a fairly similar amount in their working career and retirement. So it's so crucial to understand that number because it's one of the biggest driving forces for your plan.
Now, if you do want to retire and travel and stay at the Ritz-Carlton in every single country, you might be spending more money. So it's important to know what your retirement lifestyle looks like and if that's going to be different than your current lifestyle.
And for a lot of people, they end up spending more their early years of retirement, travel, having fun, and then normally it slows down later for that. So creating a plan and having an idea of what that is really crucial.
Mhm.
The other part is, where do you want to live? Do you want to downsize your current house if you own? So for Tim and Sue, they had a larger house that they raised their kids in, and they didn't need that size house anymore. And additionally, they lived in California, and we showed them actually moving to Arizona in a more tax favored state to see how that impacts their overall situation.
So once we have the base information, what they want to do in retirement, when they want to retire, we also know all of their investment account balances. That's when we can start creating a plan and give them specific recommendations. So Max, what were a couple recommendations that we could have provided this example client?
So we looked at the situation. We helped increase contribution to Tim's 401k. Sue was self-employed, so we set up an individual 401k for her, also
Mhm.
referred to as a solo 401k. We maximized those contributions for the accounts.
Mm. So the 401ks are a really great option to help you save on taxes today. They also grow tax deferred. So with Tim and Sue retiring early, they're going to be using money from different accounts. And this money can continue to grow for 10, 20, 30 years, far past their retirement ages with that amazing tax advantage. And that's why it's very important to be able to take advantage of those accounts while you still are in your working and accumulation years.
The other account that Tim and Sue took advantage was opening a taxable brokerage account to give them more flexibility. I think about this as a Swiss Army knife of all of the accounts, which you can access at any point in time, even before 59 and a half. And for this account, if you hold the funds for more than a year and you have gains, it's taxed as long-term capital gains, which are normally significantly lower than your ordinary income tax rate.
Now, at our firm, we call this a taxable brokerage account. Some firms refer to this as non qualified or an individual investment account, maybe a joint brokerage account. There are a couple different names for this, but know that it's different than your retirement accounts. There aren't those similar tax advantages, but there aren't similar penalties and restrictions on when you can access the money. And so it's a lot more flexible.
Aaron, tell us about our target date accounts for retirement.
Tim and Sue came to us and they had their 401ks, and the investment within was a target date fund. Now, a target date fund is automatically set up to rebalance and reallocate your money based on your age and when it's assuming you're going to retire. And so Tim and Sue did not have specific input into this. And the target date fund didn't know when they wanted to retire. And when we looked at this, there were too many bonds in this account. The bonds are not going to grow as much as the stocks are going to grow. And so it was really holding them back and almost putting a brake pedal on the growth of these investment accounts. And so for their plan long term, we needed to look at all of their accounts and reallocate a lot back into stocks so they could continue to have that growth long term and avoid running out of money later in their life. All right, Max, you know the biggest surprise that happens, and it's not a surprise birthday party. What is it?
It's medical costs in retirement, specifically health insurance costs before you're 65 and can qualify for Medicare. It can be really expensive. So it's really crucial that you plan for what those costs are going to be out of pocket. And the other thing to be aware of is if you have some sort of long-term care need in retirement. So, Aaron, 4 to 5 people currently have some sort of long-term care cost in retirement, where in majority of that time, it's more cost to help cover those medical needs. So, really crucial to create the plan to be aware of that.
That surprises me. That's a high number and something that most people are planning on happening, but definitely something we take into account because you never know. And it's good to have that preparation up front.
The other thing that people overlook if you're self employed, you lose a lot of tax deductions once you sell the business or transition out of the business. So, most of the time, your health insurance can be ran through your business for a deduction and a lot of other parts of your life. So, it's really crucial as a business owner to be aware of when you lose those deductions, how does that impact your overall tax situation?
Mhm.
The other thing we help them is to build up cash. And that was their first couple of years of retirement was to live off cash. The reason behind that was for them to do conversions. So most of their assets were in traditional 401ks, and we converted those into Roth IRAs at a lower tax bracket while they're living off the cash. And then when we're looking at the projections later in retirement, they're at a higher tax bracket. So they're taking out those dollars Roth tax free later. So really crucial to be aware of just how withdrawals and distributions all impact your retirement.
We love having a combination of pre-tax and Roth dollars so that you have options in the future. It gives you the ability to choose the tax bracket that you want to be in instead of feeling like you have to take money and pay all the taxes to the government. You actually have options in the future. Now, the last thing we recommended to them, which is actually something we recommended to ourselves, is to move to a lower taxed state. We moved from California, we now live in South Carolina, and we pay a lot less taxes on our income. And so in this situation, again, they moved from California to a state, Arizona, that has a lot lower tax burden. So it's taking less off of the top when they take those distributions.
It really does make a difference. And when we look at all the different strategies we had in place, when we originally looked at their plan, they were on track to retire at 62. And with all of these changes that we implemented, we got them to bill retire at 58.
Now, keep in mind, we are talking to them many years prior to age 58 when we created this plan. We took all of their information, income, expenses, goals, values, account balances, and we created a comprehensive financial plan. One of the parts of doing that is creating projections. So we projected out what their income's going to be, what their taxes are going to be, the Medicare that we talked about earlier. We looked at everything for 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years into the future to see, are they going to run out of money? Where do they need to be? How do their assets need to be allocated? And what savings do they need to do today while they're still in that accumulation phase to set them up for success? When we created those projections and we showed them the probability of them retiring at 58 and not running out of money until they die, they left with a lot more confidence that they can actually retire at 58, spend more time with their family, and travel more.
Those projections gave us a detailed roadmap, and that's where all of our recommendations were based off for their plan as well. So, transitioning to the last part for making sure the plan gets in place, I love the analogy that thinking about working out doesn't make you physically fit. Actually, working out makes you physically fit. So, for Tim and Sue, it's all about actually implementing the plan. And for our clients, what we do is we send them a detailed follow up email at the end of each of our meetings with action items that are in priority as far as importance and hold them accountable to actually get it done. It's the most crucial part is to implement it. And for those that are looking to do this on your own, one of the strategies could be great is to send yourself an email. Block off time on your calendar, create a checklist of things for you to do in order for you to actually implement the plan so you can have success.
I love a to-do list. If this is something that sounds interesting to you, if this sounds like it's be a good fit, feel free to reach out. I'll put a link in the description below with our calendar so you can set up a free consultation. We would be more than happy to talk with you about where you are, where you're planning to go, and how we can help you live a truly aligned life. Until the next time, stay
Stay aligned.
aligned.